Hello. Can you guys hear me? How's everybody doing? This famous guy. I'm hardly famous. How's it going, GTR Dad? AWZ? J Palmer? Thanks for the follow, Megan TB, by the way. Thank you for that. And it looks like Gary Kendrick subscribed to me about 6 hours ago. Hey, J Palmer. How's it going? So, we're gonna do this. I don't know how well you can see it. We're gonna do one of these, but we're going to do it so that we can upload it and you can print any size you want. That's what we want. Just turn the volume up just a bit. Okay. How's that? Hey, Diablo Spawn, welcome in. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, so this is what we're gonna work on. I don't have the spiral puzzle we did last time. It did work. There was just that one piece that broke off. There wasn't a lot of space for it to adhere, so one of them broke off, but it still worked. So we can make some changes to it, and then I can upload the files if you're all interested at all. And AWZ is on a 3-stream streak. Let's go. Nice. Okay. So why don't we go over to my monitor here, and well, let's open up our sample or example spiral puzzle thing that we did. Now, the problem that we had was these pieces didn't have a ton to adhere to. By the time it gets up to here, these little pieces are really trying hard to adhere. So you'd have to add some kind of brim, but even with the brim, it's still tipped over. So what can we do? We can just go in here. Let's enable that sketch. And I'm going to drag this out a bit. There we go. Now I'm going to right click. I'm going to go into the sketch. I want to add another node onto the spline. So you can right click here and you can click on insert spline fit point. So after you click on that, I can just click right there and I added one. Okay. I'm going to hit escape so I'm not in that mode anymore. And now I can move this like this. Okay. Now let's finish it and see how that looks. I feel like that looks kind of cool. So let's just go ahead and save that. And I'll export this and I'll print another one and then I'll upload it. Yeah. Okay, so how do we make this parametric? So you can do any size you want, at any height you want, any diameter, and I say any loosely because obviously within reason, you know? And that's what we're gonna work on. We're gonna learn math today, students. We're gonna learn some math because it's really hard to do things parametrically, especially when you're dealing with circles and cylinders without using math. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's close that out. Yes, math. Don't worry, I'll make it fun. Okay. Okay, so first, we want to... I'm still thinking of where we want to start. Hey, the Shrimp Father, welcome in. Music is a little loud. Is that better? Is the music still a little loud for you? Using Roman numerals. Thanks, Critter42. Welcome in, by the way. Oh, and I forgot to do one thing. I need Lumia to be running. I don't have Lumia stream up. We want Lumia to join us so it can inform me when people join. Keeps trying to get me to pay. I'm not paying for Lumia because I'm not rich. Well, there we go. Look, Critter42 is the first. Just kidding. Just since I started Lumia. Okay, excellent. Okay, so there are a few things we want to consider. We want to consider the thickness. We want to consider the inner diameter. I assume people care more about what they can fit inside more than where this itself can fit organizationally. So I want people to determine how big this is based on the inner diameter here. And I want people to be able to choose this pattern. And I want to ensure that this pattern angle is consistent. So these are all things we want to take into account. And Diablo Spawn is also on a 3-stream streak. Let's go. Yeah, so let's get started on that. We are going to start with creating some parameters before we do anything. Now, I'm going to create a first initial sketch. And Jay Palmer subscribed for 2 months. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that support. I appreciate that. So I'm going to create a quick sketch so we know exactly what we're going to be making and where we need our parameters. Okay, so I'm going to hit L for line. Hey, Harold Pulcher, thanks for coming in. So let's just create a quick sketch so we know where our parameters need to be. So I'm just going to go like this, and I'm going to start by doing a revolve. So rather than doing an extrude and then hollowing it out, I'm going to do a revolve because it eliminates a lot of the complexity of what we're trying to do. Let's make trouble. Yes, try not to crash my fusion again this time, Built Over Bot. I know you tried last time, but you failed. Okay, so I'm going to show you first, if I were to do an extrude first and what would be involved to do this container, and then why a revolve is going to be ultimately better. So let's do a sketch on the bottom here, which, by the way, pro tip, if you're not in a sketch, you don't have to click on this. If I hit C for circle, look, it's asking me where I want the sketch that I'm going to draw the circle on. So I can click that bottom plane and look, I already have the circle feature enabled. It wants me to create a circle here. So let's create our circle here and then finish. And then I'm going to hit E, which, oh, by the way, if I'm still in the sketch, I can hit E, it'll finish the sketch for me, and then automatically select that profile for me so I can just extrude, okay? So there's our cylindrical thing. Again, we're gonna design one of these, and if I want this hollow, well, I could use the shell feature, so I'll click the shell. Let's say it's 4 millimeters thick. Cool, now I got my shell, but now I need a mechanism for which it's going to twist on. If you can see here, this has a little rim right here, and if you look inside, it has a little rim right here. If I want to do that, I will then have to create a sketch on the side here to do a revolve. And if I'm gonna do a revolve, I may as well just do one revolve right away. So that's why, instead of doing the sketch on the bottom, I'm not even showing my screen. So I'm gonna, okay, so if I want that lip there, I'm going to have to do a revolve so that it can go around it. The lips that I was talking about right here. And if I'm gonna do a revolve, I may as well just do one at the very beginning and just have it be done with. So I don't have several steps down here cluttering up my timeline. So I'm gonna hit Control Z to undo all these things, okay? And so instead of doing the extrude, I'm just gonna start at the front here, hit line, and I'm gonna wanna go up and over, and then I want this lip here, and I wanna go down, and then I'm gonna go in a little bit. So this is kind of the shape I'm hoping for, right? And if I finish this and choose revolve, because there's only one profile, it automatically selected it for me, and it's just waiting for me to select an axis. So I'm gonna select this axis right here, and it'll go around, okay? So now we have our little container, we have our little lip here, and we have a place for the lid to hook onto. Now, I'm gonna want to make this parametric. So if I want to choose any diameter I want within reason, I mean, you can't have the diameter be 0 for obviously reasons. Any diameter you want and any height you want, we need to use parameters. Yeah, so let's go in here. I'm gonna go into my sketch here, and I need a parameter for the inner diameter, right? So from here to here, or we could use radius because this is half the circle, right? So let's go into change parameters, and let's just say inner diameter. And I just want to say, let's choose 70 for the default, because we'll change it later on. Now we also want the height, right? So let's do height. And I think by default, let's just choose 50 millimeters high. And now we need to know what we want the thickness to be. Now the thickness doesn't necessarily need to be parametric, but if I find later on I want to change the thickness for whatever reason, all I have to do is go in here and change one number, and I don't have to find the sketch where it's at. I don't have to find the extrude or revolve or whatever. So, yeah. Actually, I forgot to do one thing. Give me a second here. Okay. All right. We're back. Okay. So I have my, let's see. So we chose that as the diameter, right? And Pezliz coming in and telling me to take a drink. She's telling me to stay hydrated. Cold milk. I don't have milk with me. I have to go downstairs to get it. Hey, Damaka, welcome in. Thanks for joining us. And thanks for the follow. Okay, so we have our inner diameter and our height, and now we need our thickness. So let's just call it, the thickness. And I want to say let's do 4 millimeters. And the reason why I'm doing it so thick is because I want to be able to add the pattern right here. I'm going to cut into it. So I want to make sure I'm not going to cut all the way through it when I add that pattern. So I'll just choose 4. Let's see. I know that, okay, so I know what other parameters I'm going to add, but I'm going to wait to add them until we're actually there so you can see what I'm doing. Thanks for the follow, James Ben. Okay, so let's go here, and we're going to do our inner diameter, but we're going to divide that by 2. Okay, so that was interesting. All right, so now we have our inner diameter, and now we need to, I'm going to pull this stuff over just so that it doesn't do some weird stuff. Okay, now for this tab, I think 10 millimeters should be fine. I don't think this needs to be parametric. That's fine. And then let's do our thickness here. So this is actually going to go this way. Bring this stuff down. Okay. All right. So now let's do, I'm hitting D for dimension. Hey, Legit Cool Kid, welcome in. Hey, Tony, right? Okay. So this is going to be our thickness. Okay. And I just want the top and bottom to be 2 millimeters. I don't think I'll be adjusting that at all. Okay. And now for the height, the height is going to include the lid, and I want to say the lid is probably going to be about, I don't know, let's say 15 millimeters. Or let's do this. I want this to be 8. And let's just envision there's going to be a lid here, so let's sketch that in. Okay, I'm going to hover over this just so it snaps in the middle there. I'm going to hover over this so it can snap to that. There we go. So that's going to be our lid on top. Now remember, we're going to do a revolve, so this is going to go all the way around. Okay, so now to anchor this in place, I'm going to create a construction line that connects this point down to the origin. And I hit X to enable construction mode. Okay, so now we have that line fully constrained. I want this height to be about 10 millimeters. Let's make that 12. Okay, and the distance between these is going to be 2, the same as the bottom. And I'm going to make the distance between this and this be 0.3. Now, I'm going to be using this particular number frequently because this is my clearance. This is going to be my clearance between the wall of the bottom and between the wall of the top. And I'm going to be adding tabs so that things can snap into place, and I'm going to need the same clearance for those. So since I'm going to be using this number several times, I'm going to create a parameter and just use that parameter. So if I find later on, I find that it might be better if the clearance are smaller or bigger, I can just adjust one number in one place and it propagates throughout the entire timeline. Hey Pete, welcome in. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so instead of this, now, you could do this where I could just say clearance equals 0.3. And now I can use clearance. If I hover over this, you can see it says clearance : 0.3. And in this case, since it's the first sketch, it's okay to do this. But if you have a timeline where you have a bunch of stuff done and then you have a sketch, you can't use clearance in any point before that sketch was made. So if I want to go back in time and use clearance, I can't. But since this is the very first sketch, it doesn't really matter. Hey Purplish, welcome in. Thanks for joining us. So in this case, it doesn't matter, but just keep in mind, if you do this, where you create the parameter inside the sketch, then you can only use it from that sketch forward. If there's anything that happens before the sketch, you can't use it. It's not global. And if you even go into parameters, you'll see that it has a star here, unsaved, and it has clearance and all that. Okay. Now I'm going to undo this because that bothers me. I'm just going to go in here and create it. Let's delete that. Yeah. Okay. So let's create this. I'm going to call it wind clearance 0.3. Okay. I think I can delete that. Why wouldn't it let me? There we go. I'm just going to keep that as lid clearance just so it's easier to not get confused later on. Okay. And now I'm going to have the clearance between this just be 0.1. Okay. Now you can see I can pull this because we don't have this constrained at all. Right? Now we need to determine, how do we determine this? Also, there's going to be a chamfer here. I plan on putting a chamfer right here, and I want a tab to come out like this. This is kind of what the tab will look like. It's going to snap into things. And so just keeping that in mind, I'm going to choose where things go. Okay, so I'm going to choose, instead of choosing the angle for this, so I could do this and just say 135 degrees. So that's like a 45-degree angle. But I'm designing with layer height in mind. If I print this at 0.2 millimeters layered, 0.2 millimeter layers, I want to ensure that certain features start exactly where I expect. Now, in this case, it wouldn't really matter because if, we end this little edge like a fraction of a millimeter before than expected, it doesn't matter because this won't be interacting with anything. But I do like to do it for best practices. It's good to just make it a common thing that I do. Hey, Kegel, welcome in. So instead of doing the angle, I'm going to say this is 4.2 millimeters, and it's really close to 45 degrees at that point. But I know that at the point that this starts to make the transition is an even number. Okay. Now, again, I can still drag this up and down, so we need to constrain it. And so I want the point where it starts to do this, this overhang to be an evenly divisible by 0.2. So I'm going to do the same thing here where I can just put in a number, but we need to remember how tall this is. We have our parameter to say, oh, this is so high. So we're going to use that. So instead of doing that, I'm going to do this to this. Oh, there is a something that you need to think about. So if I just did this and made that the height, there's a small problem, and it relates to the layer height and the clearance that I've given it right here. So the lid, while I've given it this clearance, the lid is going to be printing on this surface and the bottom is going to be printing on this surface. They're going to be printing separately. So if I just kept this at the layer height, then that would mean that the things would be off by just 1/10 of a millimeter. Now, that's not very much. It probably wouldn't matter. But when you start to design things where you need that precision, where you're having a lot of moving parts, gears, stuff like that, it kind of matters. So I'm going to do height plus 0.1. That way I can ensure that I'm taking into account this clearance that I've added between the lid and the bottom. Okay. Now I want the tab for the bottom. There's going to be a tab that pokes out. I want that to be about 2 millimeters wide. But I'm going to be using that number several times during my design. So I'm going to add a parameter for it. Just going to call it tab, 2 millimeters. Okay. I'm going to create, hit X. I don't want it to be a construction line. Okay. This is going to be 45. I want this distance to be 0.6. Okay. And now I can bring this down and create my tab. Okay. And I'm going to make sure this is 45 degrees as well. And the distance between this and this is going to be my tab distance. Okay. This I'm going to set at 1. I usually use 1. I could have 1.4. I think 1.4 might be more comfortable. Okay. And now I'm going to add a little chamfer thing on this side too. Now you could revolve it and then do the chamfer after, but that means I can't do this tab in the same revolve. So I'm going to include these chamfer features when I do the first revolve. Okay. Now I'm going to create this feature here. Okay. Now the distance between these again is going to be our clearance, lid clearance. Okay. And I think the distance between these can be 0.2. I could keep it at 0.3, but I want the lid to be somewhat secure so it doesn't rattle. So if you pull on it, it doesn't rattle too much. This still has a little bit of rattling, but knowing that other people are going to be printing this and their printers are in various stages of tune, like they're not as tuned as mine, I want to add that little buffer just to ensure that they don't get frustrated with the print. Okay. Now, I've done this several times, so that's why I'm doing this the way that I am. Okay, so I want this distance. Let's see, let's have this match up with this. So I'm going to draw a line, a construction line to connect these two. And I'm going to click this and choose, oh, no. Okay, so again, I'm thinking about layer height. We know the overall height is 50 at this point. What would be the overall height of this? When should this start? Because this is going up and down, so I don't want this there. So this is going to go up and down, but I don't want to just put a dimension to this line because that would be a hard-coded dimension that's not dynamic. And if I change this height, this line would not change with it. So I would want to anchor this point probably to this. Because if I change this to 40, look what happens. I need to pull this down. So this would want to go down with everything else. Now, if I change this back to height plus 0.1, it's not moving with it. So I need to determine what the bottom height is going to be. And I need the bottom height to be corresponding with the overall height. I know that I want this tab here to be 8 millimeters. And then I need to know what the distance between the top, the roof of the lid and my tab needs to be. Let's delete this just so I see how things move around. Yeah, so all of that is stuck into place. And I just put these numbers in arbitrarily, this 12 millimeter thing. Okay. Let's just do this. Because if I just create a line right here, L, make sure it's a construction line. I'm going to use this horizontal constraint on this so it anchors that in place, so I can't move it down. I can only move it left and right. That basically ensures that the top of this is 8 millimeters. What's the distance here? That's 38 millimeters. Okay. So that's evenly divisible by 0.2. Hey, Big Jana, welcome in. So let's keep it at like that. And then I want the distance right here to be 4. That could be 3. That could be a little thinner. That's okay. Okay. All right. And then where else are we? Okay. So now we need to determine this thickness. And I'll have that be 4. All right. Big Jano with the hydrate. Of course, thank you. There's a lot going on with this sketch. Thank you. Let's go 50 millimeter for rounding. Yeah, let's round it up to 50. Okay, now let's see where else we are. Okay, now the lid needs to be anchored to the bottom here. So I'm going to create a construction line that connects these two. Whoops, delete that. X, L. Okay, I'm going to click this and create a horizontal constraint. Okay, now all these lines are white. How beautiful. All right, so let's finish that sketch. And I'm going to double click on this revolve. I'm going to choose these things that we want to revolve around. Okay, so this is the bottom. Oh, we don't want this. Those are just for the tabs. Okay, so there's our bottom. Now, if we want to modify this, let's go into our parameters. Let's say we want the inner diameter to be 50. There we go. We want the height to be 10. Oh, it's broken. Why did it break? Well, let's look. Oh, it's because we hard-coded the height of these things. So now, how could we make this work? Well, reasonably, I don't think we should try to make this work. I think we should have a minimum height. So how do we do a minimum? If I send this out to a user and they choose a height that is not good, that won't work, how do I fix that? Well, I can do a parameter with an if statement. So I can say min height, and let's just say min height is 30. Okay. And let's do a minimum radius as well. Min diameter. Let's do, I don't know, 40 seems good. Nothing smaller than 40 millimeters in diameter. Okay. So now with those in mind, if I can use another parameter called through height. And now in the expression, I'll just say, can I expand this at all? This seems a little small to me. Okay, so now I can say if height is less than min height, then it's going to be min height. Otherwise, it'll be the regular height. Okay, will that work? If height. There we go. Now it'll let me. Cool. Okay, so this says 30. So that's the true height. Now let's do the true inner diameter. True inner diameter. And we'll just say, if inner diameter is less than 30, is less than min diameter, then we will just keep it at min diameter. Otherwise, we'll have it at inner diameter. Okay. All right, so we have 30 and 50 now. So what do? Well, let's go into our sketch. And here, instead of inner diameter, we're going to use true inner diameter. Right? And then for our height, we're going to use true height. Boom. So that way, if they try to put in 1 for the inner diameter, the diameter is still going to be 40. If they put 1 for the height, it's still going to be the 30 millimeters, but I can still make it taller, like 100 if I wanted to. I can make this 100 as well. Let's make the inner diameter 200. Cool. That's working. Look at that. Okay. All right. Microsoft. That's right. Fun fact, I started my software engineering career in Excel, creating macros using Visual Basic, which was quite fun because inside Microsoft products, you can control other Microsoft products. So within Excel, you can open up Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer and open up a tab and search things, and then you can scrub the HTML on whatever you search and fill in fields and hit buttons and all that. Just as a joke, I created an Excel spreadsheet and I just had a few fields to make a Facebook post. In a few of the cells, I would put what my post would be about, and then I would hit OK, and it would open up a browser. And you can even do it in the background too. It doesn't have to open up an actual window. It'll open it in the background so you don't see it. It'll open up that page, create a post, and then close it. Yeah, Visual Basic is the worst. It was the first language I learned, and I never want to use it again. So, all right. So now we have our little parametric cylinder thing, but we also need our lid. So I'm going to modify this to include our lid here. Yeah, let's do this. Okay. So now to see it better, I'm going to go into inspect and choose section analysis. I'm going to choose the front thing, but I want it to face the other way. So I'm going to go over here and click flip. Okay, so there we go. There's our little container with the lid. Neat. I kind of want this to be taller though. I kind of don't like the look of that. So I'm going to change this to 15. There we go. That looks a little better. All right, so now we need to create our tabs. Now what we need to do, I don't know how well you can see it, but there's this little tab here that there's 3 of them. And this is the mechanism where it goes in. I don't know how well you can see that, but we're going to create that. So when you screw it on, it snaps into place. So that's what we're going to do next. So first, let's create our tab. So I'm going to bring back my sketch here. And now I need to revolve this. But I'm going to show an issue with this. I'm going to show an issue. So let's just go around this axis. I want to use an existing object. Let's just go 10 degrees. Okay. Let's get rid of this section analysis for now. Okay, and I'm going to do a little chamfer here. I'm going to use tab. Since tab is 2 millimeters, if I want to make the tab 3, it'll automatically compensate. Okay, there. Now, watch what happens when I increase the radius here. Let's see. Inner diameter, let's go 300, just so we can see it. Look at that. See the problem? If someone wanted to make one that was 300 millimeters, look how long that tab is. The angle at which I did the revolve is the same. So I'm going to show you what's up. So let's create a new project. I'm going to show you this. So let's create our circle. So that's 10 degrees. Okay. Now, if I create a smaller circle, the distance between these is a lot smaller than the distance between these. So now we're having to get into math. RPG and COBOL. Oh, yeah, I don't think I've touched those, but I haven't heard good things about COBOL. Yeah, so, and actually, I just learned that you could do if statements like just a few weeks ago. So it's pretty fancy. So there's a problem here. We want the distance between these to remain the same, just regardless of the diameter of the circle. If I make the circle this small, then I want the distance between these points to be the same as if it were this big. So what we need is arc length. We want to determine the arc length, and we want to set the arc length. So let's do that. Okay, I'm going to undo that. And let's scroll back to this. Now, if I hit I and click on this, it says the length is 6.4. So that's the arc length. It just says length here, but it's the arc length because I have it on a curved surface. I kind of want my arc length to be about 7. I feel like 7 is a good length. That's what I've tested, and that's what I like. Thanks for the lurk, Big Jano. So we are going to create, I'm going to use a parameter. I'm just going to call it arc length. And I'm going to call it, just say it's 7 millimeters. So I can use that. So I can change it later if I want. And now to calculate, since I already know the arc length, I need to calculate the angle, the degrees around which I'm going to revolve. So to do that, I'm going to need to know the radius, because obviously if the radius is bigger, then the angle is going to be smaller. So I need to know the radius, which I already kind of do. Since I have the inner diameter, I kind of know the radius. And I'm going to need, so yeah, those are the two things. I need to know what arc length I want, and I need to know the radius of the object so that I can calculate the angle. Now, to get to this radius, I already know this radius inside here. So that's 70 currently set, but I need to use math to get to what radius this is, which right now it's 36.7, but I need to do math to know how to get there. So if we look here at all this mess that I created, the distance of this from here to here is 3. I don't know the distance between here and here. So if I do this, it's 3.3, but I don't know that for sure, only because I measured it. If I'm making something parametric and automatic, I don't want to have to check what that is every time. I need to make a change. So, hey shenanigans, welcome in. So what I'm going to do is, I know the distance here, that's tab, that's 2 millimeters. And I know this is 3 millimeters. But why don't I go based off of, so to find this, why don't I do this? I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to do a different thing here. No, I did not want to do that. Why is that not working? Okay, whatever. So, I'm going to cheat. This is what I'm going to do. So if I hit D and select this, if I hit D and select the origin, and then select this, it's going to say it's over constrained, and I can say create driven. Now if I hover over this, it says D40. I can use D40. If I finish sketch, I know D40 is the radius right here. So if I edit this, for the angle, let's do some math. I'm going to say, what's my arc length that I want? Arc length divided by the radius. What was it, D40? I'm going to multiply that. And so the arc length divided by the radius will actually give me in radians instead of degrees. So to get degrees, I multiply that by 180 divided by pi. Now, if I hit I and click on this, 7. And now, if I change the inner diameter to 300, hit I and click this, 7. It will always be 7 now. Pulse of Skin, welcome in. WD-40, that's right. Nice pot, that's right. So now, no matter what radius this will always be the same. So if this is this big, this tab is going to be the same size as if it were this big. It's going to be the same size. That's what I want. That's how we make that parametric. Math. Okay. So now that I have that, I need to do a pattern because I want 3 of these around it. So let's do our pattern, circular pattern here. And instead of bodies, I just want to create a pattern off of that. So I'll go over here to my dropdown and click on features. And I can either click on this and this, or I can go down here and you'll see it's highlighted on my timeline as well. So you can either click these two or you can click those. And now for the axis, I'm going to choose this to revolve around the object. That way, if for some reason earlier in the timeline I move the object, I'm still referencing that object so it won't break anything. Okay, there we go. Neat. Now, what I'm going to do, let's bring back our lid, and I'm going to do the section analysis. You see this kind of collides with the lid. So I'm going to do a combine to cut into the lid. So let's do this combine. I want to cut. I'm going to keep tools. So I want to cut this lid, and I'm going to use this as my tool, and I want to keep it because I don't want this to go away after I'm done using it. Okay, all done. So let's make that go away. There's our cut. But now we need our clearance. Now remember, I'm going to get rid of this section view. I'm curious if this will work. Whoops. Yep, that'll work. Okay, last time I tried this, something weird was happening. So I'm going to hit Q for press pull. This is what the feature looks like on your toolbar. And if you don't remember what the hotkey is, it shows you in parentheses. So I'm going to hit press pull, and remember my clearance has a variable. So I can hit those. I'm going to do negative lid clearance. Boom. And I didn't create a parameter for it, which I should have, but I remember this is 2 millimeters in my sketch. And then I'm going to do another press pull on these. And this is going to be, I don't know, negative 0.075. Not a lot, because I want it when it snaps in. I don't want it to rattle this way. It's okay to rattle this way a little bit, but I don't want it to rattle this way. It can move past our little nub thing and then snap into place. So that's why the clearance between these is a lot smaller. Okay, we have those done. Now, if we enable these, we can kind of see how this goes into that groove. Great. But now we need a way for it to be able to slide the lid on and off. At the moment, this rim or this material gets in the way of the bottom being able to go into the top. So we need to cut that away. Now, so to do that, let's bring back our sketch that we use. I'm gonna, nope, not E. I'm gonna do a revolve to cut away. I'm gonna revolve around this axis. And right now, let's just put 2 in there just so we can see what's going on. Whoops. Go back. We want to go around 2 sides. And this angle, let's just do 65, just so we can see what's going on. Okay. So now you can see that this has somewhere to go. This little tab, as it's going in, can now go up through, and then it'll be able to slide over. But I want this to be just right. The distance here to be just right, because the tab has to slide past that. And that's how we get our click, because there's going to be some interference, but not so much to where it makes it too difficult, but just enough to where you can feel it click and where it doesn't just unscrew on, haphazardly. So based on my testing, I know that at about 40 millimeters in diameter, 0.42 millimeters is the sweet spot. But something that I've learned, as the radius increases, 0.42 millimeters is not sufficient. I found that around 80 millimeters, the distance there needs to be about 0.53 millimeters for it to get that snap. So like the bigger the bigger the diameter, the bigger the number needs to be for clearance there. Right here. So guess what? Math. Now you'll see, again, we chose 2 degrees to cut into that. But guess what? If I change this diameter to 200, now I've cut away too much. That tab is, that little nub thing that the tab would have to go past is completely gone. That means I can't use a static angle. Math. Okay. So I'm going to use some cheating. Because I cheated before, I'm gonna cheat again. I feel like it's kind of hacky, but I'm gonna do it because it works. So before the revolve, I'm going to create a sketch, and it doesn't matter If it's on the origin plane, I just want it in the same plane as this. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna project this and this. Okay. Now let's make the lid go away. So you can see this is kind of the shape where our little tab would go into. And in fact, if we bring that back, I'm gonna project this as well, even though we don't need it. Thanks for the follow, Just G. Hey, Numeric, welcome in. Okay. So we see that's kind of the tab where the bottom goes into the lid, right? So I'm going to create 2 circles here. Now I'm going to create some lines. So one line, I'll just go straight horizontal. And then the other line is going to represent how far I want to revolve. Okay, so I'm going to hit that point. Now I want this distance, and just so you guys can see what I'm looking at, I want to revolve until this right here is barely exposed, and the distance here is 0.42. Okay, 0.42. Okay, and now what I can do is I can do a dimension right here for this angle, and it's going to say it's over constrained. I'm going to say, I don't care, create a driven. Now if I hover over that, it's going to say it's D49. Any 49er fans out there? I don't watch football. I just know the team. Anyway, so I'm not going to use that sketch, but I now have D49 that I can use. So now when I step over to this revolve, I'm going to use D49. Boom. Now the distance, if I hit I for the measuring tool, this says 0.42 millimeters precisely. Look at that. So, yeah. Jay Palmer, that could be a way to do it. There's just an interesting thing about this plane. It's not flat. So if I extrude it up, it would only be extruded up to here. And then you'd have like a little piece over here that remains unextruded. Or if I extruded it up to consume all of this, then there would be a little tab in here of extruded material. So it makes it a little interesting to try to resolve that. So there we go. But now we need we need a little plane. I'm going to call it plane. I'm not sure what else to call it. But you see, the tab needs to slide onto something as you're screwing it in to kind of help anchor it on, because you can slide it without snapping it and it won't fall off. So it's kind of like getting screwed on. So that's what we're going to do next. Guide? Yes, guide is a better option, is a better explanation. So it'll be like a guide. Now, there's something else here. Again, with how we just used a basic angle to cut out this material here. And if we make this extra big, then it's possible it might cut too much and start to intersect over here. So that's something to take into account. I'm not going to worry about that right now. But remember when I said that the bigger the radius, the higher the number has to be for this little nub? We're going to have to do some math. Now, I've already done this before. I'm just going through the process again. But you'll see here, I got out a notepad and I drew up some math. So I created some, theoretical numbers here, 0.42 and 0.52 over here. And I just kind of worked out how I would configure it with a formula, how to determine, okay, if I'm this much bigger than my minimum, what would it be? It's going to be so much bigger than 0.42, but I don't know how much bigger, right? And then again, this is based off of my eggs. So my largest egg that I tested to have a nice snap, it was at 0.53 millimeters, that size. And then the smallest egg I did that has a good snap is 0.42. So I just took measurements. It was about 38 millimeters diameter for the smallest and about 85 millimeters in diameter for the biggest. Or radius, I can't remember. But with those numbers, I was able to determine, well, if it's bigger than 85, it's no longer a ratio between these two. It's so much bigger. So again, I had to do some math to figure out what to do to determine that. Yeah, so that's fun. I'll show you that formula when we're done here, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to do something here. Let's see, where's my sketch? Right here. Okay. So I'm just going to do this. Let's see. Oh yeah, let's do this. I'm going to project this point. Or should I project? Let's project that point. Okay. So that way, I want this angle. Let's say I wanted to cut out all the way to here about. Let's pull it there. So now for this, instead of putting an angle, because we already just used an angle, I'm actually going to use this reference as that I can work with. So let's go from here to here to get that angle. It'll create a driven parameter, that's D50. And let's say I want D50 divided by 3, and I'm going to multiply that by 2. So that's 2/3. Boop, 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 boop. I could have just taken D54 times 2/3, but that's just kind of how my brain works. I want to divide it by 3, and I want to get 2 of those. So that's kind of how I did that. So now this is dynamic. So when I increase, if I go into my parameters and increase the inner diameter to 100, this is now 75 degrees, whereas now it's 70 with the other one. So this angle changes based on how big a radius this is. So, whoops, let's go back in there to look at that. So now if I hover over this is D51. Okay, so now in our revolve, D49, D51. Done. So now I can guarantee no matter how big this is, this will be in about the right spot that doesn't interfere with other features. Hey Bailey, welcome in. Yeah, peanut butter cookies are the best, by the way. I think it's probably my favorite snack, even if you ask my family, which I hope you wouldn't know my family personally to ask them. That would be kind of creepy. But if you did happen to run into them and ask them what snack would be my favorite, they would probably say peanut butter cookies. I probably made them almost daily as a kid. 3 ingredients: 1 cup of peanut butter, 1 cup of sugar, 1 egg. Mix them up, bake it at about 350 degrees for about 12 to 15 minutes. And I mean, depending on your elevation. In my elevation, it's about 12 to 15 minutes. Might take longer or shorter depending on your elevation. You probably not want to have to cook it as long if you're at a very low elevation. I have to cook it longer at a higher elevation. I believe that's how it works. Let me know if I'm wrong. Anyway. Oh no. Okay. We have sing mode. Okay, Built Over Bot has redeemed sing mode. I need to put a timer on. And I get to sing for 5 minutes. How about that? Timer, 5 minutes. So, do we want opera mode? Or do we want like, I could try opera. Anyway. This is gonna be fun. Okay. Starting it. Here we go! I don't sing in emo, but I can do opera! Singer's voice? I don't know what singer's voice is. Oh well. Mute. I wonder if it's going muted as I sing the longer notes. Okay. I'm not going to worry about this distance. Hey Ram! Built over bot just enabled singing mode. Okay. So now we need to create the guide. Thanks for unfollowing. We will do our revolve around this axis, and because we already have our parameter, we can use that. I can't remember what the parameter is. D49. Boop, 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 boop. The Oscar Mayer Wiener song in Spanish. I'll sing that at the end of my singing voice. Okay, let's do our revolve. B49. Done. But wait, we want 2 directions. 2 sides. Now what do I want? Again, we don't know the radius. Hydroid, welcome in. We're singing for 2 more minutes. 2.5. Okay. So because we did this, we also want to know how far over to make our guide. So I'm going to do something similar to determine how far over to make it. Two sides. Now when I this, it says 53. So in our revolve, when we choose to D53, boom. That's too much. We need to fix it. I'm going to change this to divided by 4. Divided by 5. That way, no matter the radius, it's in the spot that I want it. All right. Okay. 50 seconds. So what do I do? Now I need to extend this because this is sharp. We don't want it sharp. Give me a chance. Oh my goodness. Thanks for enduring. Talk like I'm singing. This is more difficult than you might think, because I have no creativity when it comes to singing. Kill the rabbit. 10 seconds. All right. Welcome, Kenneth. Welcome in. And we're done. Okay. So, before we continue, Tesla's redeemed Oscar Mayer Wiener song in Spanish. So I get to sing that for y'all now. Hey, Paulins, welcome in. Thanks for joining us. Okay, well, here we go. Now, I do have some noise canceling turned on, and the last time I sang this, some of my voice got cut out for the longer notes. It assumed that it was just random noise. Also, thanks for the hydrate. After I'm done singing the Ostermeyer Arena song, I'll hydrate. Shenanigans. So I do have a redeem that is talk or sing talk. So anytime I say anything, it has to be in a song voice. And Pezla's also redeemed the Oscar Mayer song in Spanish. So enjoy. Let's hold on. I gotta stop this music. Pause. Okay. Otherwise, I'd be singing over the music. Okay. Quisiera ser un Oscar Mayer winner. A mí me gustaría ser así. Y si yo fuera un Oscar Mayer win, se enamorarían todos de... Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know how much of that you've heard, but there you go. All right. Thanks for the hydrate. A lot of singing and talking, so it's probably good. Actually, I think it's my... So I use NVIDIA's broadcast, and I have a studio setting on, which cuts out a lot of any... it does noise canceling, and it probably thought that my higher notes was noise it didn't want to come through. So I probably could have disabled that for singing. Yeah. Oh well. I'll see if I can get that working for next time that it's redeemed. Okay, so now this is the little nub that the tab has to go past. That's how we get our click. But this is really sharp. And as you may know, when 3D printers, when they go around edges, depending on your pressure advance and your acceleration, it rounds them. And so this may not be what we want. There are various people with various different printers and various different stages of tune, and because we don't know how that's going to be, to make sure that this isn't affected very much, I'm going to revolve. So we're going to revolve that around this. Now, by default, it has 3.8, but again, it's going to increase and decrease based on the radius. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same parameter I used to cut into this, which I think is D49. So D49 will determine how far to go. And I believe this actually just comes straight to the front plane that we're working on. Now I'm going to do a, let's see. Hold on. So this, yeah, that was D49. What's this? D48. Okay. So now I need to add a chamfer here, and I'm going to use D48. So that way, if D48 changes, that changes with it, and so it's always a consistent chamfer. Because if I change the radius of this, and especially if I want to programmatically change the depth of this little nub thing here, based on how big it is, then I want this chamfer to change with it. Hey, thanks for the lurk, Built Over Bot. Okay, so that's kind of what we want to keep there. All right, and now I'm going to do another chamfer right here, not right here, right here and right here. And if I remember correctly, the distance of those is 2? Yeah, it's 2. Okay. There we go. So that's our little track or guide where our little tab is going to go in here and then slide over and then click into place right here. Now I need to do that 3 more times, but instead of manually doing those, I'm going to go over here to circular pattern, make sure features is selected. I'm going to go down my timeline and select all 5 of these actions. And then for the axis, I'm just going to do it around there. Quantity is 3. Hit OK. There we go. There's our lid. Okay. Now if we change the inner diameter, let's change it to 300, see what happens. Okay. This doesn't cut into this at all. I mean, that's kind of a long track or long guide, but I think that's still fine. This is still about the right size. Perfect. Okay, gonna hit Control Z. Where did my... There it is. There we go. All right, so that's the majority of it. To make sure that it's still functional, I'm gonna show you one other thing though. So we have this. I'm gonna make it a little shorter. Okay. Let's add a little chamfer to this and this. Let's say 3. I think 3 is a good number. And I'm going to add a chamfer to these too, so that way if the lid is off, there isn't any discomfort handling it with the hands. I'm just going to do 0.6. I feel like that's sufficient. Now, let's add our knurling. So we have our little pattern here. We want to add that. Now, despite what you might think, this is also going to require some math. Believe it or not. I'll show you. Okay, so let's start on the bottom here. I'm going to create a sketch here. Let's project this. I'm going to project this outer surface. Okay. I'm going to make that a construction line. I don't want that to interfere with what I'm going to do. Okay, and we're going to do a little triangle here. So somewhat like this. Okay. Now I want the distance here, let's do 50. I want this distance to be the same, so I'll just click on this. And I want this whole distance to be 3. And I want the distance between this and this point to be 1.5. Okay, now that's fully constrained. Now I need to... Now, if I extrude this up, I can't rotate it. We're going to use a sweep, because sweep... yeah, not math, anything but math. The math comes more fun. That's right. So we need a path along which we can do our sweep, because sweep, we can do a twist angle. With an extrude, you can't. So I'm just going to do another... I'm just going to create a construction line up, and this is going to be the height. Okay, and just double checking that goes all the way to the top. Oh, it doesn't. Now, there's a problem here, because I had to remember that in my sketch here, I added 0.1 millimeters. And that means if I want to do anything regarding the height, I have to make sure I add 0.1 millimeters. So I'm going to create a parameter that's called, so I have true height already, plus 0.1. Let's do that. Okay, and then we'll just have true height. There. Okay. That way, I can just use true height instead of height. There, and that way I can guarantee that that's all the way up there. Now, I could have done an what's it called? I could have used this intersect thing and just gone here, and then I could have just anchored the line to that. That would have worked too. So I don't think that would have been a problem. But now I have my path, and now I have my shape. So now I can go here and choose sweep, select this, path, select this. Okay, and let's just do 45 degrees for twist angle. Okay, now there's a problem here. And I'll show you what that is. If I change the height to 100, I'm going to call it an overhang, but this angle looking from the front is suddenly a lot less extreme. So if I go here and change this to 80, now it goes a lot further over. But now if I change this back to 50, well, now it's a lot more extreme of an angle. This angle changes. Hey, Moji, welcome in. Thanks for joining us. So what do we do? What is happening here? Well, let's get rid of this stuff. We don't care about this stuff. If you consider looking at the front of it. Let's say this is our cylinder. And then we have our line going like this. Well, if it's shorter, suddenly it's a lot more extreme of an angle. If it's taller, it's less extreme of an angle. So how do we guarantee that this angle stays the same no matter how tall it is? Math. Okay, so math, that's right. Imagine parametric modeling with math. It's crazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat again. I'm gonna cheat. Okay, so from the front, let's just do this. Now remember, the circumference of a circle is how far the circle would go if it rotated one whole rotation. So you say you have a wheel and you put the wheel down, you rotate it, and you put a point on the wheel. The point will go around the wheel until it comes around again. And then when that's happening, the wheel will rotate. And the distance that it goes is the circumference of the circle. So if you look here, I'm going to just project both of these. In fact, I'll actually do an intersect for both of these. Okay. And if I do a 45-degree angle right here, whoops, undo, 45. Okay. And I want it to go right there. Let's do another line right here. Okay. So if I take this dimension, that's 50.10, 50.1. Hey, Nick, welcome in. So at a 45, the point at which it hits the top is 50.1, right? So that's the distance from the middle here. Now, if you think about it, let's try this. I'm going to try this real quick. Let's do that. I'm going to do a rectangle here. I'm going to do a circle here. Okay. Sure that's locked in. This could be 5, that doesn't matter. I'm going to add some parameters here. One is going to be radius, degrees. Let's just say the radius is 30. And then let's do length. The length is 100. Actually, what do I want to do? Yeah, let's just do that. Okay. Radius times 2. Go. Why aren't you working? Oh, it's in degrees. Duh. I don't want that to be in degrees. Millimeters. Oh, please. Okay. So let's do radius times 2 since that's the diameter. Okay. Now the length, I'm actually going to change the length. The length is going to be 2 times pi times radius. Okay, that's going to be the length. This is going to be the length. No, actually, I don't want to do that. Let's keep this at 100. I feel like this will be better. Okay. So I'm going to extrude some things here. I have to create components because I'm going to make some joints. Some joints and some moving components. So this is going to be the round thingy. And this will be the flat thingy. Okay. Round thingy, I don't want it to be anchored. I do want this one to be grounded. So flat thingy is going to be grounded. Okay, let's extrude this. I don't know. No, that's too much. 50. Okay. Bring back that sketch. Extrude that. 2 objects. There. Done. Okay, let's go back here. Okay. So now we're going to... as built-in joint, these 2 components. I want it to... Yeah, pin slot is good. Let's snap to here. That looks good. And then I'm going to go here, motion link. I'm going to select this. Distance, I want it to be 2 times pi times pi times radius. Okay. So rolls, there we go. I'm going to reverse it. Okay, so now if I double click this, you can see that it rolls. Okay. Now, remember I did this. This is 100 millimeters. So, I'm going to show you some cool math. Okay, so we got this, and then we got this. Okay. Oops. Okay, so this would be the arc length. That's 100. That's our arc length divided by the radius. Times 180 divided by pi. Does that work? Does that work? Why aren't you working? So arc length, 100 times 1 millimeter divided by our radius times 180 divided by pi. There we go, that worked. Okay. So that's the arc length. This is 100 millimeters from here to here around this. So I'm going to create a few circles here. This is going to be 2 millimeters. Let's do this 1.5 millimeters. Okay. 2 millimeters. Okay. Trust me, this is cool. Because math is cool. Okay. I'm gonna extrude this, -1. Let's taper this. There we go. Okay. Check this out. Note where this point is. Rotate this. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Boom. Nope. See where that ends? This is 100 millimeters, and it's 100 millimeters around this arc from this point to this point, so you can roll it. Okay? The reason why I'm showing you this is because when I want to determine how to get to this point around the circle, I'm going to be envisioning this is the bottom of the circle. If I have a line, an invisible line that goes here to the bottom of the circle, and I want it to roll until it gets to this point, That's the distance right there, 50.1. So I'm going to determine, let's finish this. So in my sweep, I need to figure out what that parameter is. B74. Okay, so when I do this sweep, the twist angle is going to be, what's my arc length? E74. I believe this is what I want to do. What's my radius? I want the inner diameter, the true inner diameter, divided by 2. I want the outer diameter. Do I have an outer diameter? I don't think I have an outer diameter. So I'm going to use this as my outer diameter. Not that. Not that. This. Create driven. This is D75. Okay. So the twist angle is going to be... so we need the arc length, which will be how far we rotate to get to that point, which is D74, was it? Divided by the outer diameter, divided by 2. D75 divided by 2. Times 90 divided by pi. So you can see, now let's do a sketch on the top here, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. Let's grab this point and grab this point. Okay. That's what I wanted. I wanted the angle between these 2 points, which happens to be 93.1 degrees. But if I change this parameter, the inner diameter, to be 100, now look, it's only 50. But you can see that it's the same, the same angle. Math is failing us. Okay. Okay. But now let's look at the how tall it is. So you'll notice, let's go back into this sketch. If I make this taller, this goes all the way out here, even further. But if we make it a lot shorter, it comes in. This is always at a 45-degree angle. But the distance to get there will always go with it. So this is 100. Now it's only 50. Right? Okay. So that's just the point that I was trying to get to, is to ensure that the angle that this happens remains the same no matter how tall it is, no matter how big a radius it is. It's always at the same angle. That's what we do. We use math. Okay, so now that we have that, I don't think we need this. I'm going to use a mirror. I want to mirror a feature, this feature, across this plane. There we go. And now I'm going to do a circular pattern using these 2 features around this axis. And let's just do 21. Now I found it's because there are three tabs here to connect to it. I find the best results are in multiples of 3. Because I don't know how we could see this, but the knurling meets up with the top and bottom. if you don't use multiples of 3, there's a chance that if I twist this and put it on at a different spot and close it, that the knurling won't meet up from top to bottom. So because I did 3 tabs, if I do the pattern in multiples of 3, then they should match up. But yeah, there you go. Easy. Now I'll show you the one that I had finished. I feel like I did better on this one because I didn't have the distraction of streaming, but this is the first one I did. Okay, parametric. And at the end, I did a few moves where I ensured that the lid was on the bottom. Now, this is the reason why I did that. I'm not even showing my stream. So this is the one that I've done, and I'll show you the power of using Fusion. So I'm going to go into Bamboo Studio, not Bamboo Studio, on Maker World. And let's go to upload. Okay, so here's this is my Fusion file. You can export the F3D file from Fusion and then put it in here. And what MakerLab will do is it'll validate it to ensure that you have parameters in place that you can use. Now, to ensure that, these are the parameters I'm using. I have the inner diameter, the height, and then I have the groove count, so you can choose how many grooves you have around the knurling. And I've added these comments. Now I had to ensure that these were listed under favorites so for him to pick it up. So if we go here, you'll see it passed. I can choose it to not be open source so people can't download my Fusion file. And I can even test it out. I can click here and it'll open up the parametric modeler. Now you'll see that anywhere I added my comment is going to show up right here. So I can give instructions on what the parameter does. The inner diameter of the container, the height of the container, the knurling groove count, okay? So now I can just go here and I can change the height to 100 and the inner diameter to 150 and the knurling count to 30, and I can click generate for it to generate a new model for me. Hey Jedi Spidey, welcome in. Wait for it. It's still thinking. You can see it right here. But the only parameters that show up are the ones under favorites. And then these kind of tooltips show up for, if you added a comment next to it. There we go. So there's our new parametric model. It's 150 millimeters for the inner diameter here, and it's 100 millimeters tall, including the lid, and it's got 30 of these grooves that go around it. That's the pattern. Okay, so now I can download this, and I can select, it doesn't really matter to me, but, let's see. Interesting. Oh, that's kind of cool. So if I download this, I don't think it matters. I'm going to just choose A1, confirm. I'm just going to download the STL. Okay, there we go. Let's go to STLs and then save. And now let's go here. Oh, look, there's one printing right now. Okay, I'm going to choose new project. Hit open. I'm going to go here to the top. And there it is. Now this is too big for my build place, so I can just right click, split 2 objects. Okay, and now I can just select one of these and drag it over. There. So there's my model. I can make it whatever size I want. I can make it super tiny. I can make it super big. If I want it to be, 30 millimeters, or let's go 40 millimeters in diameter and just 30 millimeters tall. Let's do 20, let's do 18, and let's generate that. Now, because there's only 18, it shouldn't take nearly as long to generate. What takes the longest is the pattern, the knurling, because it has to like calculate the geometry for each groove that it's making around it. Wait for it. Wait for it. That's a good question, Bailey. Let's figure that out. Okay, so now I got a really tiny guy here. So let's download that. I don't care what printer because I'm just going to download the STL. Okay. Let's grab a new thing. Let's load in our small one. There we go. Now we got our small guy. So, thinking about it, Bailey, I don't think they do, because my eggs, I just basically, I take them like this and I go, and so they're in the same orientation. With this one, I had to take the lid and go, so it's going to be mirrored, so to speak, with the colors. So ideally, what I could do hold on. Yeah, I'm not sure what orientation it is because I did this align thing to get it to the bottom. Because I don't know how tall it is and I didn't want to do the math. But this align feature, I'm not sure if it did this or if it did this. It looks like this would still align with this, but that doesn't mean anything because it's evenly distributed. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. If you want, because I would be okay about just having it exported like this, but I'm afraid people will just try to print it like this without aligning this. I mean, the slicer might say, oh, there's overhangs, but I don't want to have to put additional text in the description to tell them what to do, because I'm trying to put this as nicely as possible. When I design things, I try to design it so the most uneducated people in the world can still use it and not get angry. So I try to design things with that in mind. I design them for you. I design them for as many people as possible. So that's why I wanted to do it this way. Now, I could try to, instead of using this align feature, I could try just moving this around an axis. I mean, if I make the origin come back and I choose this as an axis, I could try just doing this. In fact, let's do a test here. If it's done like this, oh, I think this is the orientation it turns. I think it turns around the x-axis. So if you took it and then you did it backwards like this and laid it on its back, that's the orientation. So I would think that if you wanted it, so if you used a tricolor to kind of match up as though it were on the top, I would assume you'd want to do this and then rotate it 180 degrees. No. Hold on, I'm thinking too hard about this now. Here, let's do this. I'm going to do this. Let's do a copy of these. Okay, and I'm gonna do this just to test it out. Circular pattern around this. Okay, finish. No, that doesn't work. Cut these two. I'm gonna essentially make this a tricolored thing and then move the lid to see how that looks, because I'm struggling to think about it right now. My brain is not all there. Okay, so these two will be green, these two will be blue, and these will be, I don't know, orange. Okay. Now, if I move this, it's the front. Origin. That's essentially how you would want to place it on your plate. Now, this is essentially how it's not going to align. If you can do it with the eggs, because the eggs I just go whoop whoop, but because I'm like turning aside, it's just not. I don't think it's very possible. There's gonna be at least one color that doesn't match up, or two. I can line up the greens, but I can't line up the blues and oranges because of how it flips. So if I flipped it and then colored it and then flipped it back on top, we would have the same problem. So if you want, in your slicer, if you don't mind the extra supports you would need for the roof, you could do something like this. So without splitting it, or I'm gonna right click here and I'm gonna split into parts instead of into objects. So I can select just the top. I'm going to rotate it like this. And if you want to print it like that, the colors will line up. Just make sure you flip it around using the red. I mean, if it's faced like this, use the red arrow. So you wanna rotate around this axis. What even is that, Nick? Wow. Just wow. So Bailey, if you wanted to do that, and it was, I mean, with a bigger one like this, you would probably want to use supports for the roof, but you could. You would just need to take it and rotate it just like this. Whoops, just like this. And then the tricolors would match up. That's what I would recommend doing. Okay. So let's undo this HUD. And that. We don't want that. Go away. All right. So, and this is kind of how the functions look for determining the, so remember the little tab on the inside where I had 0.42 if it were about 40 millimeters in diameter or radius, or I had 0.53 if it were 80 something. So in here, I put, so these numbers here, so the lowest diameter that you can go is 38.46. That's the lowest that I saw in one of my eggs. And then the highest I saw in the same egg is 80.62. And then for the gap on the lowest diameter one, it was 0.42. And then the gap for the highest diameter one was 0.53. And so to determine the diff, I used an if statement. So if the diameter of the lip, and I actually used the tab here, the lip of the tab is where I'm measuring from. So if the highest diameter is greater than that, then I'm going to use, and it's kind of hard to see here, I'm going to subtract the lip diameter from the highest. But if it's not greater than that, then I'm going to subtract the lowest from that lip diameter. So that's how I get the difference there. I just named it diff. And then for the percentage, so that gives me, again, math. So that would give me the percentage of how far over I am. So in this case, if I have 75, what percentage between 50 and 150 is 75 at? So I find that percentage. And then with that percentage, I can say, well, what's the percentage of that? And then I multiply that percentage to this. So I know that, oh, if this is 25%, the distance between this and this, then I need to multiply that same percentage to this to get this number. Math. I won't get too much further into it, but that's how I determine the gap. I call it a tab gap. And so I get our gap difference, multiplying the percentage. Then I have an if statement in here because whether it's between the greatest and the lowest, or if it's greater than the greatest and the lowest, it'll have a different function that I use. So that's my gap diff. This is my inner diameter, my height, etc. And then in this case, the first time I did it, I had a bottom height that I chose, which is my true height minus the lid height. I had a lid height of 20 millimeters. And then I have my tab angle, which that's what we showed in the stream, determining how to get the tab here to be the same distance regardless of the radius of the container. And then I have these two if statements to determine, like, if it's less than the minimum allowable distance, then I just make it the minimum distance. Otherwise, I make it whatever distance they choose. So for height and for inner diameter. Okay. So that way I can just go in here and I hate waiting for the knurling to calculate. So I'll just select that. And then for the inner diameter, I can choose 1. And it won't actually go to 1. It'll actually go to 38.46. And then for the height, I could just choose 1. And it won't actually be 1, but it'll be the minimum height of 20, I think. 29, I think is what I had. What did I have in here? I can't find it. True height. Where's my true height? Right here. Oh, height. Oh yeah, I just hard-coded in here, 29. So 29 millimeters is the minimum height. So it doesn't matter how small these are. The smallest diameter you can go is 38.46 and the smallest height you can go is 29. So I made it so if some rando went in there and like, I want a really small one, and Fixum Dude tested this for me. He was doing a lot of weird stuff, which is what a good tester should do. He made it super long and super skinny. He put like 12 for the inner diameter, and it didn't break, but it wasn't truly 12. So Nick wants to change the variables. A plus B equals floppy and beardy land. Okay, so I wanted to make it so if someone went in there and they started messing and they're like, oh, I want it this size, it won't break. I don't want it to break. Now, the way I did this math, it's not linear. I know it's not linear. This math is linear. And if you get big enough in diameter, this number is not going to make sense. The gap, the 0.4, this one's 0.612 with the math that I did for this specific radius. I don't think it'll matter with the size of printers we have. So if you start to do it with massive printers, room-sized printers, you might start running into an issue with the lid clicking onto the base properly. But I think for the majority of people and their printers, it's going to work fine. So a challenge accepted. Print it as big as possible and see and let me know where you go. So this design is going to be uploaded pretty soon. I'm printing a few other sizes. I wanted to show the power of parametric design, not just, oh, it's parametric design because it has design history. Oh, it's parametric design because it's in Fusion. That doesn't necessarily mean it's parametric design. It just means that you used tools that are also used in parametric design. And if you can't modify variables to change the entire thing, I don't know if you can truly say it's parametric. So yeah, so I'll be uploading this onto Maker World. I'm curious if printables will eventually have a feature where you could have a customizable option. Thanks for the follow, Raj. Thanks for the follow, Raj. Yeah, so does anyone have questions or want me to go over something that I had already gone over again? Of course, Piled 3D. Of course, you like parametric CAD. All the stuff that he has, if you haven't looked up the Piled 3D software in Steam, it's pretty impressive. And that is parametric modeling, where you can set in parameters and it changes everything to what you want, and you just export it. So, math. I do a lot of math in my parametric design, and I do a lot of hacky stuff too, and take advantage of those D parameters that are generated every time I create a dimension. So yeah. All right. So I think we're going to call it there. I think it's time to find someone to raid out to. All right. Who do we have here? Oh, look. Wonder what Polyfo is doing. Oh, he's playing games on Boyd. Let's see. Oh, Asylum Life Makes is doing an interview with Joel Telling at the moment. I think we should raid into them. Let's do that. All right. Will it work? All right. Thanks again for joining me, everyone. I appreciate you all. I tried to explain the best I could how I made this parametric model. Again, don't be afraid to reach out to me on Discord if you have any questions or if you need help with anything, and I'm happy to respond. So, y'all have a good one. Thanks. Stay for the raid. We're going to say hi to Asylum Life Makes and Joel Telling.
That started, right?
Oh, one year for Christmas, I got, I believe my parents got me some gunpowder and some tape because I had used all of my dad's gunpowder and tape on things.
Gunpowder and
Um,
okay, you gotta
If
tell.
gunpowder